Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschyacha Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, a little report on some research from the morning class. The Sringa Maharaj isn't here yet, but you can inform him because I want to respond to the question that he asked this morning. Okay, I'll go slowly. The question was twofold. First, the question was, what's the, we'll see if I get the, Pararupa was intrigued by the question, and he, like he also made some research. Okay, I can't find it. What does the wife of knowledge refer to? Vidyavadhu Jivanam. What does the wife of knowledge refer to? And the response that I gave was in relation to the gender, because knowledge is, vidya is female or feminine, and wife is feminine. So the answer that response was, this is in reference to a jiva that is thinking himself or herself as Purusha as opposed to Paraprakriti. So that was the answer, the expanded answer to that question. And then his question then came, why the female? But the original question wasn't exactly that. Oh, Govinda. What does the wife of knowledge refer to? Specifically, the wife. So, little homework, and there's a response from the research on what Prabhupada wrote in identifying that phrase. He not so much identified each part of the phrase, but the phrase, because there's a lot of references, because it's the first verse of Shikshastika, so it's quoted many, many, many places. But he indicated that the Vidyavadhu Jivanam refers to the superlative knowledge that comes from chanting, that comes from bhakti. The superlative, that's thus the queen or the topmost, the best of all knowledge. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he specifically addresses this phrase in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote commentary on Chaitanya Bhagavat, and in Chaitanya Bhagavat, in reference to this phrase, he wrote, Gaurasundara, that's Lord Chaitanya, is Vidyavadhu Jivanam, the husband of transcendental knowledge. That was another feature. And then a third reference, specifically, is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary on Shikshastakam, and he makes this particular reference. He uses the phrase young bride of knowledge as being a composite word, not two separate words. So vidya is one word, vadhu is another word. So he makes it a composite word, vidya vadhu. Thus, feminine, because they're both feminine. Vidyavadhu, they're both feminine. It's as far as the contradiction. So his response, in other words, is it's one phrase, not two separate phrases. The wife of knowledge is the king of knowledge. Very similar to what Prabhupada writes, or the topmost of knowledge. And then, because he had to leave, Paramarupa gave class yesterday evening and then attended class this morning, and he's gone already to attend some seminar or some business meeting or something like that in India. So he's not here. So I requested him, please have a discussion with the Shringa Maharaj on your findings and see what his response is. But he said, I can't, I won't be here. So I'm doing it right now. He doesn't give emphasis to, this is Paramarupa. His understanding is, based on some scriptural references altogether different, there's detachment, that as in knowledge and detachment arises from Bhagavad Gita 1.2.6. So if this Vidya Vadho Jivanam indicates a perfection of detachment. He has another reference. Which is inseparable from knowledge and detachment, and the realization of that knowledge that's different than the book knowledge. As just vidya, it's realized knowledge, and knowledge of one's spiritual form, swarup, which arises from chanting of the holy name, which is something that will be covered later, but that was his immediate understanding. He said it like he wrote. We had a very busy exchange on this, but so detachment, realization of knowledge as opposed to theoretical. Detachment that arises along with knowledge, and realization of one's spiritual form, one's swarup, one's spiritual identity. That makes the Vidyavadho phrase. That's his understanding. And that's very similar, not the same, but it's very similar to what Prabhupada, because no reference gives this exact, like, as our discussion was going, the exact explanation. These are references, at least the Bhaktisiddhanta reference and the Bhaktivinoda Thakur reference address. The Prabhupada's reference it's the superlative feature of knowledge. It comes from a purified heart, purified by the chanting of the holy name, Vidyavadho Jivanam. So that's it's not crystal clear, and crisp and perfect, but those are things that came out of our little research. Would you like to? Have you been thinking further about this, and you'd like to add anything further to this discussion? It's an interesting question. Maharaj, you started it, so you get to finish it.
Well, it started, one hand, Prabhupada gave this name to one lady, one young woman in London, when I was in London. In 1972, he initiated a young lady there. He gave her the name Vijayabadu. And I remembered the name, and I always tried to figure out what's it. Somebody had asked me before, Vadu means wife. What is the significance of it being the wife? And I could never find any real reference to it either. I don't know where you got all these references from.
It's right in folio. It's
in the folio.
Yeah, it's all in folio. I got busy. Believe it or not, I got busy. So what I can do for you and for others, but because the diacritics are there, and to copy and paste diacritics is, takes a little exercise. But I'll send it to you,
please.
And the multiple references in Prabhupada's own writings. He doesn't break the terms down, but he says what I said. He said it's it means that the superlative feature of knowledge. It's in different language each time, a little slightly different, right in his books. So that's one reference. Then there's this Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Shikshastika commentary. It's online, and I'll send you the link. And then the other is, the with scriptural reference, the indication that Paramarupa has. In fact, I'll ask Paramarupa to elaborate and send it to you. And he's not like asserting this is right. Each time he said, "Is this okay? Is this so?" I'll ask him to write to you, and then because it's nice to get clearer picture of such an important verse, the first part of the Shikshastika. And it's not. And it's. I think what something I'm going to do is I know a few scholars that when they get a chance they respond. And one of those persons is there. Without naming the names, there are some go-to persons I go for scriptural reference types of things. Hari Parshad is one. He sometimes doesn't get to it, but he'll. So I'll gather whatever information and send it on to you and put it in one folder, one file, and we can translate it to Chinese and circulate it for people that don't understand what we're saying. Okay. That's a report from this morning. And now here's the topic, acquiring taste for the name. And there you see the image of Krishna on the left. Watch, there's an image of a bee and a honeycomb going to show up on the left. And this has to do with the Madhuram Madhure BOP. At some point during this event, the Japa retreat, we'll be singing and hearing and making some little discussion on these ashtaka. That there's a series of prayers that are well known, and here's the first of those prayers that's well known, or what the one where I'm referring to. Madhuram Madhure BOP, Mangale BOP Mangalam, Pavanam Pavane BOP, Harir Nam Eva Kevalam. More sweet than all other sweet things. More auspicious than all other auspicious things, Mangala. Greatest purifier of all purifying things, Pavanam, Pavane BOP, Harinam eva kevalam. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. So this is one of a series of 8 prayers that it's good to sing them. It's good to immerse ourselves in that message. So this is the first. Madhura Madhure Byopi. More sweet than all other sweet things. So honey is very sweet. The honey within the holy name is remembrance of Krishna. The holy name of Krishna is the highest nectar. This is Brihat Bhagavatamrita reference here. It is my very life and my only treasure. Nice. Towards the very early parts of Brihat Bhagavatamrita. The holy name of Krishna, this is from Hari Bhakti Vilas. The holy name of Krishna is the highest benediction above any other benedictions. It is sweeter than the sweetest honey, the eternal fruit of transcendental knowledge of the tree of the entire scriptures. That's it. Hari Bhakti Vilas is referencing Skanda Purana. And as we heard from the morning session, Skanda Purana has a whole series of statements in relation to the holy name. The honey within the holy name is remembrance of Krishna. One more time. The holy name, this is from Shikshastaka, verse number 2. The holy name of Krishna is sweeter than the sweetest honey, the most beneficial activity among all auspicious deeds. The honey within the holy name is remembrance of Krishna. Now, this is a photograph of Akinchana Das Babaji. Akinchana Das Babaji was a contemporary of Srila Prabhupada. They were both disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta. And Akinchana Das Babaji is a celebrated lover of the holy name. Yes, Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji. Thank you. Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji. And here's a statement from him. Chanting the holy name of Krishna is true nectar. The holy name is like honey. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the topic is acquiring a taste, and we don't always taste honey-like taste when we chant. This is reference Adarat from the Shikshastaka, from the writings of Rupa Goswami. Let's say the verse together. Syat Krishna Nama Charitari Sataptya Vidya Pito Patapta Rasanasya Nakinkinu Twadarad Adulinam Kalu Saiva Jushta Smadvi Kramaparvati Kamulahandri. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, or ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within the tongue. So that's, if we're not tasting, this is how to get the taste. So as persons, has anyone here had jaundice and had the experience of tasting rock candy and it tasted bitter? I'm one. A few of us have had that experience. Rock candy is definitely not bitter, but it definitely tastes bitter. And that's a cure, if not the cure. It's a cure for jaundice or a liver disease, where when the liver is diseased in that particular way, that which is sweet tastes bitter. And then the reference here is that's how to get to that. Acquiring a taste is regularly chanting anyways, even it may taste bitter, may not taste sweet. So we're, most of us, pretty familiar with it doesn't taste sweet. It's a medicine. And we're taking the medicine to cure material disease. So this emphasis, you see the underlined phrase is carefully chanting. So this is a little attempt to explore what does that mean? What's at the heart of carefully chanting? So chanting is a behavior. So there's a series of hearts. And in that series of hearts, there's bhakti, and bhakti has a key. So you see the emphasis on the left is hearts. And what's at the heart of bhakti? Well, here's bhakti, the outside, anushilana, that's in general speaking, the processes of bhakti. We're hearing from Maharaj about the processes of bhakti. And then there's the object of the processes of bhakti. The subject, that's us. The object is Krishna. Subject, object, and the activity, chanting. Krishna's name, he's the object. And then there's the heart. The anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. That's the intent that Krishna should be pleased. And notice Super Soul just appeared there at the bottom. And that's at the heart, that Krishna should be pleased. Or the intent. And you may not be fully purified. It's very similar to the response that Maharaj gave to Sri Radhika's question in his session about, the fact that a question was in relation to the chanting that I do, the Namabas chanting, or trying to at least come to Namabas chanting, and is that Namabas the same as Krishna is not different than his name? It was a very nice answer. I like the answer. The name is, so the sun in the sky behind the clouds is Krishna. Our experience of Krishna may not be direct. Their experience may be the Namabas experience, or that which is blocked, or clouded, or not the full force of the sun, but through the cloud, because it's Abbas. That's describing our experience, but the name is the name, and our experience is a reflection of the name. But when bhakti when the taste has been properly cultivated, as Rupa Goswami describes, by regular chanting over time, taking the medicine, then that's how the taste comes. The intention to strive to attend to Krishna's name uninterruptedly, that's rapt attention. So I put a little graphic. I like graphics. So this is a person calling his servant, the servant with the white glove. And he's holding out a bell, and somebody's supposed to just tap the bell, and that means service, please. So that's being attended to. So we're the servant, we're the person with the bell in the white glove. And we're calling Krishna's name, and that's, if you're attending as the servant attends to the master, were attending to the master consistently, regularly, uninterruptedly, striving for rapt attention. That's the cultivation of the pure holy name. Such loving, attentive service, mood, attracts the all-attractive, Krishna, and his mercy is then bestowed upon such a person. You know, it's the clearing stage to the Shuddha stage. And in that Shuddha stage, there's real taste, because this name is sweet, Madhuram Madhurebhyop. So Krishna is going to appear. Look at this. The mercy of Krishna starts to appear for someone who is not tasting but wants to taste and cultivates in the manner that Rupa Goswami has given, or all of our acharyas have given us, or that we heard nicely, you know, the repeatedly. In regard of Vaishnava as one who makes this type of effort. Buddhimanta Kant, nice example. Bhakti is compared to a bhakti lata. Here's an example of a lata, a creeper. Generally speaking, creepers, it's a nice metaphor because creepers cling to something. And they grow because of their clinging to something. And they grow very, very tall according to that something that they cling to. So a taste is that kind of chanting, and slowly, 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 one may acquire a taste. I'm pausing because I'm thinking of some devotees I know that have given such focus to this particular all-important act that they regularly and extensively chant. Sometimes it's circumstance of health, and they can't do much else because of their health, but they can chant, and they chant, you know, continuously or extensively, or a major part of the day after day after. And so I've asked them, what's your experience? Are you acquiring a taste? And, you know, there are different responses, but in general, the response is yes. You follow that, by following that teaching with faith, and perhaps combined with circumstance, but in some cases it's not combined, it's just with faith. Then there's a taste. And then those persons can chant and chant like a Kinchana Krishna, like chanting with faith. There's a nice Prabhupada story in relation to Kinchana Krishna Das Babaji. There was an occasion, I wasn't present, but some devotee reported that Kinchana Krishna Das Babaji was sitting once with Sridhar Swami, not Sridhar Swami, one of the Swamis that went to England. You know, you're very Ban Maharaj, I think. Yes, someone's nodding. Yes. So, one of the sannyasis that went to India, my memory is it was Ban Maharaj and Prabhupada and Kinchana Krishna. And Kinchana Krishna asked very directly, both of you were given the same assignment. Both of you went across the sea, and both of you attempted to establish Krishna consciousness. One was successful and the other was not. Why? And because he had this way of laughing, and he laughed. He said, because Swamiji had full faith in the holy name, and therefore successful. That was his perspective. And, you know, Prabhupada had all faith in the holy name, and, you know, that's how the Hare Krishna movement became founded, by chanting Hare Krishna. You know, plus the person who was delivering with faith. And that was the magic. Of course, his command of the scripture and how he was present with the people, that he was, and all of his character and quality, along with this profound faith in the holy name. So not just scholarship and being a good businessman. And all of it begins, this is meant to show a seed that's just opening, fructifying, with 2 leaves unfurling, with some preliminary faith. Shraddha, which develops for bhakti, is endowed with ruchi. So even in this early stage, the early stage of a plant is the seed, and the seed fructifies. And so in the indication is within that fructifying seed, or within the seed itself, there's ruchi. It's just not mature. Just this morning I was listening to Prabhupada say there's a different taste for mango. Sometimes people pick mango from a tree and leave it to the side, and it ripens in its own way in time. And then there's others that wait till the mango ripens on the tree, and then they pick the mango. And that's the desired part of the mango tree, is the fruit. And then there's different ways of tasting the fruit, and that which ripens on the tree is the sweetest. Just this morning, Prabhupada was describing like this. And the Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So similar to the Vidya Badhu Jivanam, similar to. Only the Shraddha, which is endowed with ruchi for bhakti, culminates in the symptoms of bhakti, that is called Sharanapati. Now this is taken from the writings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he, in addition to using the term Sharanagati, he liked the term Sharanapati. And apati means attaining. So the root is similar, Sharana, but then there's Sharanagati, having attained, and then Sharanapati is attaining. That's the cultivation of. And where there's the symptoms of bhakti, that is, the symptoms of taste or ruchi within, it's like the unripe and then the ripened. Green mango and the ripe mango. There's both mango, but there's a different taste. That's the idea. Shraddha is not a limb of bhakti. This is from Bhakti Sandarbha. It's not a limb of bhakti, but an attribute for the adhikar for Shuddha Bhakti. Faith is not a limb of bhakti, but an attribute for the adhikar or qualification for Shuddha Bhakti. We know that author is Jiva Goswami. So different stages of unfurling of the seed of bhakti, bhakti creeper. Once we connect to this place in our heart, service to Krishna becomes so intrinsic to our being. Like you practice, Prabhupada's phrase, you practice something, it becomes second nature. There's nature that just comes because, we have a nature. They have a body that has a certain nature. But that nature can change by cultivation, by practice. And then that practice becomes second nature, as nature was, so now it's second nature to do something. And then chanting with taste to follow the teaching of Rupa Goswami, etc., acquiring a taste, it becomes second nature for one who has that maturity of chanting or maturity of bhakti. It's very, very natural. Like a bee going for the honeycomb, diving into the honeycomb, acquiring a taste. And there's this fellow, Easy Journey to Other Planets. You've seen this. This is one of the early day covers of that little article that Prabhupada wrote. And notice what the fellow has in his hand. This is his beads. He's flying in the sky, and there's a space. Just Prabhupada always called it a Sputnik. You know, this space exploration machine. But there's this fellow going with a nice Sika flying behind his head into the spiritual world through the chanting on his beads, the chanting of the holy name. Of course, kirtan. And that's a whole other, I'll say. In many places, Bhaktisiddhanta would write, Kirtaniya Sadahari, that this Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, Tatrapita Niyamatak Smarane Nakala. So the chanting of the holy name, Bhaktisiddhanta would indicate, it doesn't just mean chanting. It's the emphasis is chanting, and that's explicit. But the implicit, the unspoken part is, and all the other processes of bhakti. Specifically, he would refer to Harikatha. Harikatha along with chanting. That is knowledge that awakens from the hearing of Scripture, and then gradually by hearing notionally or conceptually, then some realization from the path of hearing Scripture or Harikatha. So Harikatha is implicit when there's emphasis on the chanting of the holy name. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam. You know the verse, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. And he would comment along the same line. Yes, the chanting of the holy name, and Harikatha, along with the chanting of the holy name. Meaning, without chanting, because some persons can chant and chant and chant and have a misconception. A little anecdotal sharing, and I'm going to end. A few years ago, I was in college. Like 56 years ago, I was in college. And when I was in college, chanting had started to become popular. For some, for spiritual seekers, chanting had become popular. And along with the Hare Krishna devotees chanting Hare Krishna, there was another fellow who previously was a Harvard professor, and he left Harvard University, went to India, and became a follower of a particular Mayavadi. And this particular Mayavadi got him chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So you were saying, I know it's true, there are some that won't even pronounce the name, but he was pronouncing and advocating and doing the college circuit specifically. And Richard Alpert, PhD, became Baba Ram Das. And he was advocating chanting Hare Krishna. At the same time that I had was introduced to devotees chanting Hare Krishna. So now I got two Hare Krishnas. And just a little sharing. So one of the things that he said, he would visit universities. He was a former professor and a Harvard professor at that. And so he liked interacting with college kids. So he would just sit and chant. and then with a drone, like just and just there was no melody, just the drone, and then he would at intervals he would pause and say, "Become one with the chant. Become one with the chant," and then resume chanting. And I thought, wow, that's cool. What does it mean? And then so I attended some more seminars or his programs on chanting. And then he revealed what he meant. He said, in the beginning, there's you and there's the chant. But when you become really immersed, it's just the chant. And I said, forget this guy. I mean, I didn't understand what Mayavadi was, but I understood. I become Krishna? Poor Krishna. But he was chanting Hare Krishna without a proper conception, no Harikatha, without Krishna. So then many people can take, like this other expression that I showed you, the big boom in the yoga school, yoga instructors, and blah, 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 and people think that's spiritual, and da, 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 da. So but it's not, without Krishna, what's spiritual? Without Krishna, what's... And so it's something, and there's Namabhas, and then there's Namaparaj. We're going to hear some more about Namabhas from Maharaj. And what Bhavaram Das was doing was not Namabhas. It's offense. And propagating offense. Not nice. So, along with I'll just repeat, along with the chanting of the holy name, Kirtaniya Sada Hari, it means Sada also hearing Karnikata, side by side, proper conception and direction of when you get on that train, where's the train taking you to? Better find out. Because it could be a good train that takes you to, the wrong place. To offense loka. Aparad loka. Aparad loka. Okay, acquiring a taste. So that's our topic for this session. Acquiring a taste for the name. Madhura Madhure BOP. Any comments or discussion? Isn't this nice, a short class? Lots of time for our devotees that like to ask questions.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. You mentioned many times. You mentioned that to know the sadhya is very important to get a sadhya. Otherwise, just by doing sadhana cannot bring one to the sadhya if one doesn't know what he's going, where he is going. So I also found that when I got a distraction during the chanting, I forgot what I'm doing, or why I'm chanting, or what's the purpose behind this chanting. I'm just become quite mechanical, and just do the things without knowing or without remembering the goal. So, although now after hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing from spiritual masters, we know that the goal is Krishna Prema again, and again. So why still we couldn't keep the goal in our mind during the sadhana?
Well, how to keep the goal in mind during sadhana from the very same sources that you mentioned. However, there's, the tendency to forget, or tendency to lapse in complacency and become distracted and so forth. And therefore, regular hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, and regularly hearing from spiritual master, regularly hearing from those sources that reconfirm again and again and again what's the destination. And a good teacher, a good parent, a good head of state, is one that can be that guide for the dependent person who they've accepted that relationship with, to guide them and remind them, when knowing full well the tendency is to be distracted and forgetful, because that's our covered condition, is forgetfulness, moving towards remembrance. So to remind gently and appropriately to the person and the circumstance. So maintaining connection with those that connect you with. So the book and the person. Bhagavata Seva.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. We heard that once you hear the Shuddhanam from a pure devotee, then just once, it could awaken one's pure love for God. So Srila Prabhupada definitely, he's a pure devotee,
Yes.
and his spiritual master, they are
Yes.
pure devotee.
Yes.
So we do hear from them. We heard the Shuddhanam, but while we are still.
Well, you know the answer. We're holding on to stuff. It's like this nice example that the sun is shining and we're hiding under a rock. And then the sun says, my dear Manani, don't hide under a rock. And you say, yes, sir, and you stay under the rock. It's holding on to. And gradually, ever so gradually, even if one is holding on, the effect of the sun shining is there's light. But it's not the fullness, it's not the Shuddha. It's not experience, the subjective experience is not matured yet. And therefore what to do? Exactly what Rupa Goswami has given. We follow the practice in the medicine, with faith in the medicine. We have a good doctor. He has good medicine. I've seen people get cured by this good doctor. I'd like to become cured. I don't like to be jaundiced. Now, carry on. More. You want to add something?
So, Guru Maharaj, you mean that this kind of hearing require the quality with faith, right? It doesn't mean that
and
physical
consistency. According to, excuse me for interrupting, but there's three things. It's just Patanjali Yoga Sutras. It's one of these classes that goes along with chanting. Patanjali Muni wrote Patanjali Yoga Sutras, how to practice yoga. Now, his writing was specifically in relation to the Ashtanga Yoga system, because that's what he was expert in, but he gives a definition of practice, abhyasa, practice. And the definition, faith is one of the essential elements, three essential elements. Three essential elements are, there's Sanskrit terms, every day, for an extended period of time, like don't expect immediate result, and then the third is with faith. He doesn't use the word shraddha, he uses the word satkarya, but it translates as faith. There are statements in Scripture that indicate there are certain things that become, although it's already effective, it becomes more effective if there's faith. One of those is medicine. You have faith in the doctor. And it's true. If there's faith in the doctor, the healing with the same medicine, the same disease, the same everything, becomes better, becomes more quick, becomes more effective based upon faith in the medicine and the doctor that's prescribing the medicine. And it's true. Healing is accelerated, or wellness is accelerated by faith. So faith is starting point, adau shraddha. Then sadhu sangha. Then what's a sadhu? Like this discussion, Buddhimanta Khan, who is a Vaishnav. There's no degrees of Vaishnav.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
I see your hand, but there's some people that went up before you.
Guru Maharaj, on this point of the stages of how bhakti develops from adau shraddha to sadhu sangha and bhajana kriya, there was one slide that I was very unclear about. And it was something along the lines that shraddha is not an anga of bhakti or is not...
That's Rupa Goswami. I'll go to the slide so we'll get the exact message. Where's that exact slide? No. It's a standard statement. There we go. Bhakti Sandarbha. Shraddha is not a limb of bhakti, but an attribute for the adhikar or qualification for Shuddha Bhakti. Not a limb, anga, but it's a qualification for Shuddha Bhakti.
So limbs of bhakti are Shravanam, Kirtanam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 9 processes. Those are, and it's not, it doesn't fall into that. For analysis' sake, for terminology's sake, it's not one of those. But what is it if it's not one of those? It's an adhikar. Adhikar, qualification or classification for one who is eligible for Shuddha Bhakti. Okay?
And every limb of bhakti, like Shravanam, Kirtanam,
Yeah.
we need Shraddha
Yes.
for all of those.
Yes.
And yet it is not by itself.
It's like earth is needed for the cultivation of a seed. The cultivation of a seed is, you can cultivate seeds without earth. You put it in water and, so. It's not intrinsic to the unfolding, the cultivation of the sprouting of a seed. But for the mature, it's not necessary to reach the mature stage of what a seed can become. And it supplies nutrients and things that make, a tall tree. Not just the petri dish where you cultivate the seed and you make whatever it is from the seed. Okay?
Thank you.
Anantashesh.
The question is not fully crystal clear in my head, but I will go and ask anyway. We hear that Krishna appears in different forms, and the form of the holy name is the most merciful. When Krishna appeared in this world 5,000 years ago, there were a lot of offensive personalities that came in front of him, and all of them were liberated. Offensive people coming in contact with the holy name,
They may or not become
we
liberated.
don't hear the same result. They don't obtain. We hear that in fact they obtain the opposite result. They get more entangled. So how to understand that the holy name is the most merciful form of Krishna?
This is a trick question. I'll speak something. I'll invite Nrsimha Maharaj to also speak something. He asks these penetrating questions. When he raises his hand, I know I'm in the hot seat. But it's good. It's good. They're a very thoughtful question. Well, Krishna is not different than his name. So he who's not different than his name is different than his name. He who delivers, but his name doesn't deliver. They're different, Krishnas? Or, say it the other way, when Krishna appeared, the name Krishna also appeared. He became known by that name. Or other primary names, like Govinda. Or we heard this morning from Maharaj, they're primary names. They have that same power. And then there's secondary names, etc. So the name and the person are not different. So my one way to answer your question is don't bifurcate the two, because that's a mistake. It's a mistaken understanding of what the name is and what the form is and the personality is and the character and the pastimes. They're all Krishna. And that name is not different than quality, form, pastimes. And that realization is the gift or the mature fruit of the chanting of the name. And the chanting of the name implicit is Harikatha, along with the name. And then we can have some understanding of Krishna's killing of demons and, doing what he did and the pastimes. It's part of the Harikatha. And then we can have a proper understanding of the name and proper understanding of anything and everything. So back to the question. The question is bifurcating two that are not meant to be bifurcated. The question itself, implicit in the question, is a mistake in framing the question.
May I
Yeah,
clarify?
sure.
The context of the question was, I'm not thinking the name and Krishna are different, but from the offensive personality coming in contact with these two forms, in one form the result is one, in another form the result is different.
Well, those that become, like, what's going to happen with Baba Ram Das, who was propagating offense, and is still doing it, to my knowledge. I mean, he may be deceased, I don't know, but he did. His life was dedicated to offense. Now, what's his destination? The destination of offender fixed upon Krishna.
I don't know.
So let's just become offenders and, go to this way, that way. So his destination isn't the same as one who's chanting with a proper conception as opposed to an offensive conception. But, you're making, there's some assumption built within your question that may not be properly thought out. Because how do we know? We know from Scripture what the destination was. But like Shishupal, he chanted Krishna's name, what was it, 100 times, some number of times before Krishna chopped him.
So that was I was thinking through all the instances of the demons that Krishna killed, and I think there's specific mention that they all attained liberation. But
Yes, they all attain. All the soldiers on the battlefield.
I was not sure about the washerman that Krishna killed. He was also offensive against Krishna.
Yes, he was. The policy applies. One size fits all. Now, the exact destination, commentary probably says the exact destination. I don't recall what the commentary says about the washerman's destination. But Punarjanma na, of one type or another type. Would you like to add something to this interesting question?
Well, you already said the question is wrong, so how can I answer a wrong question?
Okay, give the microphone to somebody else, please. Behind you, right behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You had mentioned the creeper clings on to something for growth.
Yeah.
So in the Bhakti Lata case, is there something it clings on to?
Yeah, the name. Whatever you have faith in relation to Krishna, that's Bhakti Lata. And that which, so some persons have faith in, fill in the blank, of the 9 processes. Some people have faith in the deity, etc. Some people have faith in the Bhagavatam. Some people have faith in, fill in the blank. And of course, it's without offense. That's in its imperative what to cling to, but that's a response to your question. Depends on the performer of bhakti, what specific feature of bhakti they have faith in, and that's what they cling to. Recommended, or more than recommended, imperative is faith in representative of. Because otherwise I can get messed up. I think I've got a direct channel, and I don't. Like deity worship. And people can do some really, people do some really sentimental things that are not to be done, and think that's devotion. They cling to. So they need someone to train them, a teacher, a deity worship teacher, and etc. Other forms of bhakti. Now, Krishna is very kind, and he can accept somebody that bangs on a drum real loud, and they really don't have much sense of rhythm or anything. Krishna is very kind. But the offering should be with the idea that Krishna should be pleased. So there are ways to do that. There are ways that aren't as pleasing. Okay. That's the answer to your question. Yes, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for the nice class.
Speak slowly.
Yes. Okay.
I'm challenging you to speak slowly.
So the slides talk about intent to please Krishna.
Yeah.
So as we go in our life, we have to do so many activities.
Yeah.
Taking care of families, I'm involved in the management also. Make a lot of decisions. So sometimes we do not know whether that decision that we made is really intent to please Krishna. And now I come to the stage of helping people about family issues and all that, preaching. So, and sometimes you have to give suggestions and solutions. You do not know whether that's the solution that they will accept, or if it is a right decision, and how do you know for ourselves that that is actually pleasing Krishna in our intention to do this preaching, because without preaching, this is not our movement. It's our movement supposed to preach. But if we don't preach, we sit down and do our own sadhana and all that, then we got no worries. We are safe. But we have to go out and preach. So how do we know that when we give ideas and suggestion and solution, that the intention that we have behind it is actually to please Krishna?
How do you know when you've eaten enough?
When the stomach is full.
You feel full. And then people say, take some more sabji. Take some more sweet, take some more cake, some ice cream, you know. I'm full. Bhakti parishano bhavo viraktir anyatra syat. It's, you know, it's a symptom. You're asking, how do you know? So there's two. There's detachment and there's attachment.
Okay.
The attachment is so complete, you lose interest in other things. And, you know, that's one way of describing as a symptom, a subjective lakshana, characteristic. And another is that the spiritual master is pleased. And if you're not sure, go ask him. But, you know, you study the teachings and the example of, and then you know. Like taking this expression that you made of, you know, reaching people. That we know, that's pleasing. But, you know, but I'm a busy person, I'm a householder, I've got I've got a job. Somewhere, somehow, on a purposeful basis, let me do some. That's time management.
So that means if I go out of my own personal time, personal own situation, and help other people,
It's time management. You know, the slice of your life, or a particular period of time in my life, may be less. Another time it may be. You know, there's a lot of Hare Krishna devotees that are entering into the vanaprastha stage of their life. Maybe you're one of them.
yes,
You know, the family thing is, you know, winding down. The children are grown up and they've gone off and they're living their independent, quasi-independent lives. And now I've got less time demand. So what's next? So, you know, at a certain time in life, then you do things. But how do you decide what you're going to do? Because there's that big vanaprastha phase. There's a big gap. And then how you make choices. That which is pleasing to Guru Gauranga. And you make your choices like that. And if you don't know, read scripture and ask your wife. Or a dear friend. Or ask your spiritual master.
I was asking to go by myself and preach.
Okay, good for you. I like that too. And then there's ways of preaching that are pleasing and less pleasing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anybody else out there? Wow. The Chinese audience has gotten quite silent. Maybe because you couldn't follow everything. How's the translation system going? Yes? It's good? So-so? Huh? It's adequate. Oh, it's more than adequate. It's really good. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. We have the announcing person. Who's the announcing person?
Hare Krishna. We have, Maharaj just spoke about Vanaprastha person, so we have one of the Vanaprastha person here.